Mr. Tony Gaskins, welcome to your first one-on-one with Hype Plus. Man, it's always refreshing, at least for me on this side of the camera, to talk to people that we haven't traditionally always talked to. So this is going to be a fun conversation. I'm looking forward where this goes. But where did your story start, and how do you identify yourself in terms of your title and your role?
Right. Well, I hate the title life coach
hmm
because it implies that you got it all figured out. So I don't like the title, but I didn't make it up. And then I also despise the title expert because a lot of people with bad intentions put expert in their bio. And so I've never labeled myself an expert, but what I like to say is as I learn, I teach.
hmm
So I'm always in the midst of a lesson and I'm talking about it that day or the next day.
hmm
And that's really how I got started.
hmm
When I was 22 years old, trying to change my life, went from trying to be in the streets hustling and then got married
hmm
and trying to do the right thing.
hmm
What came next was, hey, Tony, tell your story.
hmm
And that's what birthed it.
22 years old. Is this where you first got into this particular lane? So what was going before? What was young Tony like?
I was an athlete, so my goal was to be a pro athlete. And I went to college and I played college football on the Division II level, which you can make it from there, but you got to be very exceptional. You got to be very focused. I had a friend that made it from the Division II level and played 7 years in the NFL, and I was better than he was. So I felt like I could do it. But when I got to college, from being so sheltered at home, my dad was a pastor. And he was assistant pastor when I was like young. And then he started his own church when I was 14.
Okay.
And so I couldn't watch rated R movies.
Wow.
I couldn't listen to R&B. I couldn't listen to any rap. And so when I got to college, I just went wild. With the ladies, I wasn't into drinking and smoking and all of that, but just with the ladies. And then when it came to just trying to be cool.
Yeah.
So it was in college that I started selling weed out the dorm room.
Yeah, they said that a lot about preachers' kids.
Yeah, it is. It's true because of, for one, you sheltered, and then two, because of spiritual warfare. It's like the adversary really don't need you or want you as much if you're already working for them. But when you represent something that's different, it feels like you have to prove yourself more that you're normal.
Yeah.
And so it's really overcompensation.
One thing that I think about, particularly in our community, is our family dynamics, our upbringing, because a lot of times that ends up reflecting later in life of how we engage with women. What was the examples you were seeing at home? Were they good examples, or was there some things that like, oh man, I need to maybe correct that?
Right. See, my family from Central Florida, so we're from Polk County, and it's real backwards in the sense of it's just down home, it's real country. It's not like that group of Black people that are well-read and that are highly educated. We come from no education. My mom, when I was in like 5th grade, she was telling me that I could read and write better than her. And she always beat herself up on that. And then my dad, he was real, he went to the military. So his way was like my way or the highway. Like he'll let us express ourselves, but as far as a husband, it was like, it's my way or the highway. But my mom, she was like real, hey, I'm gonna do what I wanna do. And so they end up getting divorced probably 25 years. So you think marriage is forever then, but then they got a divorce when I was probably around 20 or 21. And so I took that from what I saw when I was 4, 5, 6, that toxicity, and not just for them, because they got it right, but then all around me, it was just all abusive relationships. So when I was in college, I was an abusive boyfriend. I was a womanizer. I was a player.
Right.
And then when I was 22, that's when one of my female friends from childhood, she said, Tony, you should write a book because you're the biggest player that I've ever known. And it wasn't really on that level when you consider guys who play the game, but from where we were at. And so that's what really
Yeah. What would you define a man that is a player? What do you think that is?
The way I define a player is a man who tells women what they want to hear so that he can get what he wants. He's not necessarily telling them the truth, but just kind of playing the role. Or he's playing on their desperation and he can tell them the truth because he knows they're desperate with the hope that they can change him, but he knows he's not going to be changed.
Wow.
So for me, it was like I would have a girlfriend, but I still would be cheating on her. So my first semester, I'm at a small school. We had 1,600 students. My first semester, I slept with 14 women out of 1,600 students, and probably only 100 of the women were attractive to me. And the next semester, I slept with 14. And so that speaks to the immaturity and how I was attaching that to my manhood, the fact that I still remember the number. And I kept on going, and me and my friends, we just kept a list of the names. And so that's why I take the stance I take today, because for me, I feel like, and a lot of guys don't agree with this, but for me, I feel like men have it easy. Like we had it easy. Like I had a homeboy who I thought was ugly. And when he came to me, he said, bruh, it ain't nothing you could do with a woman that I can't do. We both grown men. And it was from that moment I was like, maybe you got a point. Maybe it's not my 8-pack of abs. Maybe it's not the fact that I play on the football team.
Wow.
Maybe this is just what men are out here and able to do.
Yeah.
And so when you're a young man and you play the game and when you broke and you sleep with 3 different women who would be considered wife material in one day, and we're not talking about women who are strippers or escorts or in the sex industry. We're talking about women who they want to be a doctor, they want to be a lawyer.
Right.
And so that was my experience. And then when I looked at my mom and my sister and I saw how they were suffering at the hands of men and falling for 8th grade games, that's what pulled me into the space of what I do today. And that's why I get so angry when guys lump me in with the opportunists, because there was no money attached to it when I started this journey.
Man, a lot to touch on. What you just said, sleeping with 14 women in a semester. That seems like for some, how did you pull it off? Was that exhausting? But it also made me think about, even in my own experience as a young man, I do think that men should have a season where they are being able to really, be out there. Do you agree with that sentiment of, I'll just label it as the whole season for men and women? What are your thoughts about the whole season? Do you think we should all kind of have that time to really, sexually be out there, that eventually, later on we'll be married?
I guess they used to call it sowing your wild oats.
Okay.
What I wish that I would have did was date all of those women, like meaning go on a date with all of them and maybe 2 dates to just learn more about a woman's mind versus sleeping with them. And so I don't believe in having a whole phase if it means having sex.
Just sex.
Just because it's so dangerous. There's so many diseases. Somebody come up with the term soul ties, which is really like the Bible say you're not just sinning against God, you're sinning against your own body.
Right.
And so that's why I look at it. It's like a spiritually transmitted disease, as somebody so eloquently coined. And it's real. Because when you go through that, you have dreams about it. It'll come to you in a dream. I done had women tell me that they area would start pulsating while they driving, just remembering a man that they were with. So it's real dangerous.
Yeah.
But our society is so overly sexualized that we try to downplay it and make it seem like there's such a thing as casual sex.
Yeah.
And it's really not, because there's a lot of ties to it. Because you could sleep with somebody casually, but the other person that they sleeping with could be like, hey, this life or death, and you just slept with my woman, or you just slept with my man, and I'm finna come take you out.
Yeah.
And that happens every day.
That happens a lot.
A lot.
You know, we lost rapper Trouble. I don't know the exact details, but to paraphrase, it seemed like he was dealing with a woman, and her ex that she just broke up with would come. And I just, when I see stories like that, it's like it's very unfortunate. What are your thoughts about, I guess, the dynamics of how do men maybe need to deal with breakups a bit differently when I think about that situation?
Right. The thing about it is because men do not traditionally have an open space to be vulnerable and to express feelings. When a man gives his heart, it's death row for life. So you'll hear different men say, if I fall in love with this woman, this till death do us part in another way. It ain't God's way in the marriage vows. It's if you leave me or if you cheat on me, I'm gonna take your life. And now we seeing that happen. It's always been happening. It happens every day to a degree, but now with media. So in 1 week, I saw one guy took the life of his ex-woman and she got 6 kids.
Right.
Another guy say he caught his woman cheating. He took the life of his 3 kids and himself.
Right.
And then like you say with the rapper, Trouble, was it? And then like when we saw the other young rapper out of Chicago sent that tweet, that, and he used the emoji of like a pussycat.
Okay.
It's mine for life. Talking about, you know, his lady.
Got you.
And then guys put that in their lyrics. And then guys put in their lyrics, it's a lot of bragging about sleeping with this NBA player's girlfriend.
Right.
Sleeping with this man's wife.
Right.
And guys are making it seem cool, not understanding that that's a death sentence.
Yeah.
From any man. Like a pastor kill you by sleeping with his wife. And the crazy thing about it is, the Holy Bible talk about that. It talk about when you deal with another man's wife, he will not have mercy on you. And that's a commandment, not to covet your neighbor's wife. Because, so basically it's like from the beginning of time, it has been known that men are territorial. And if you cross that territory, you playing with your life. And to be honest with you, I think it's as many men having their lives taken over women as it is men losing their lives due to gang wars or street violence.
Got you.
Because most of the time when we go to take a man's life, it's because our sister said he put hands on me. A lot of the times, like I've went to take the life of 2 or 3 men on behalf of my sister. And to God be the glory, it has not happened. But I literally was willing to go to prison for life at peace in the name of my sister. And then I learned, wow, she'll go back to this man. After I literally was trying to get a gun from the OG to go shoot up his house. And then 2 weeks later, she back with him. And so it just became so loose on the tongue of so many women when they get mad with a man, not realizing as men, we take that to a whole nother level.
We do. It, kind of at the top of that particular response, it makes me think about like men. One, it doesn't seem like we always are able to deal with what we give women. I think we've heard that argument. And then something about us not knowing how to deal with rejection. Because you do have men that, you know, we've heard even stories. I think there was a story in Atlanta where a guy was trying to get the female's number. She turned him down, and then eventually he's shooting at her.
And we seen that in New York, where the young lady walked into the liquor store and the guy tried to holler at her and she was like, I'm good, and went outside and he like beat her up or like bit her in the face or something crazy.
It was on video?
Yeah, it was on video. I think it was like Brooklyn or something. And that is true.
Yeah,
And
what's happening with us? Why are we doing that? Why can't we just take our L and just keep it pushing?
It just comes to how we raise. It's like we have been taking L's since we came out the womb. when so many men, father, walk out. That's an L that he can't do anything about it. When he goes and tries out for the basketball or the football team and he gets cut, that's an L he can't do anything about it. When he gets benched. And so the one area that I found that men feel like they can control whether they win or lose is with a woman. Because when a woman rejects a man, the thing that we do in any other arena of life, we would go to jail for. If your job fires you and you go and you show up every day, they're going to call the police and say you trespassing and you going to jail. But when a woman breaks up with a man, we will text her nonstop, telling her, I'm getting counseling. I'm working with a relationship coach. Like, I can't tell you how many men have used me falsely to get their woman back.
Let's talk about it.
And they woman, it's so many men, celebrities on down, will come to me, follow me online, repost me, do one fake session with me just to tell they woman, I'm working with Tony Gaskins. And they woman give them another chance based on that.
Yeah.
Fake getting help. And guys will tell me, especially celebrity men, man, you got to tell her something good for me. Man, you got to take my side. And then I have to let them know, like, listen, bro, I know you see a lot of shammery with your pastor, with relationship coaches, but I'm not that guy. I call it down the middle. If you're in the wrong, you done put hands on her, I'm not finna tell this woman to take you back because now that blood on my hands. So if you're not willing to grow up and be a man, I'm gonna tell her she need to leave you. And I tell them that, and I done fell out with a lot of influential men because I wouldn't lie for them. And then they done started lying on me. And when I told them up front, if this woman that you asked me to connect you with, if I find out you playing games, I'm gonna tell her because my name on the line. And I'm not no pimp. And that's why I kind of had to.
Yeah, that's interesting. That seems to be an interesting space because, you know, you have your path as far as your role, we'll say career, just to kind of give some context. But then there's also that male code that we, like Tony, what's going, like you, come on, bro.
Right.
We men.
Right.
So how do you decipher that?
What I try to tell every man is it's the man code that has destroyed our society. Because what the man code means is to lie, to take advantage, to manipulate at all costs. So when we say the bro code, we basically saying, hey, let me cheat on my wife, let me cheat on my girl, and let me in turn be hurting my kids and their future because eventually she's gonna find out, but you can't tell on me. You know, you can't, and I don't do that with my homeboys, but they coming to me as a professional and saying lie for me. And I'm like, I can't do it because it's hurting us collectively.
Right.
Instead of me lying for you, I'd rather see you grow.
Yeah, there's no cure in the lie.
Exactly. And what I try to tell every man is no man was worse than me. And if I could change, I believe any man could change.
Yeah.
Because what guys doing with millions of dollars, the way they're able to play women with millions of dollars is what I was doing as a broke college kid. And so that's what I realized, that it's almost like God allowed me to go through that. Over 100 women from the ages of 15 to 21 and not catch a STD. I owe it to dedicate my life to righting my wrongs because I'm supposed to have a disease.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have been stabbed multiple times by women I lied to, or by a man that I took his girlfriend or slept with his girlfriend, whether I knew it or not. I'm supposed to have been stabbed, shot.
Statistically speaking.
Right. So I have to dedicate my life to this because I see how it's breaking us down.
How did you find I think in your growth, you start realizing like, damn, I did a lot of people wrong, a lot of women wrong. Because the thing about women in terms of my dating experience, especially good women, they really trust you. They're open. They're like, I'm rocking with you. How did you find peace within yourself? Do you still have some things that you are like dealing with as you reflect on good people that you've done wrong? How did you find peace?
I don't have peace with it. And that's why I do the work I do.
Wow.
It's kind of like I always related to Apostle Paul.
Okay.
He was Saul and he persecuted Christians. And then on the road to Damascus, he was confronted. And when he was shown his ways and was blinded for them 3 days, he then realized, wow, I've been doing some real dirty stuff to a very real group of people who got a heart and who have a vision and who have salvation and deserve to live. And so that's what happened to me. It was like I was shown, Tony, you've been destroying yourself and you've been destroying women and you've been breaking down society, breaking down your culture when you're supposed to be teammates, not opponents. And so in that, and even today with my wife, I'm still working every day to be a better husband because I teach on communication because my communication has been so horrible. And so I still don't have peace right now. Even right now, me and my son, or my 15-year-old son, we not on good terms and he live in the house with me.
Wow.
And it's because of the way that I talk to him or it's because of how hard I am on him.
Okay.
I don't curse at him.
Right.
And so that's what I try to tell every man is I'm not sitting high looking low.
Okay.
I'm not a knight in shining armor. I'm just lifting as I climb. I'm teaching as I learn. And so I'm exposing myself and teaching the lessons that I'm getting from my experiences.
Yeah. There was I was thinking about Tupac. He had a quote, I think he said in an interview, he said, I want to say this, women get horny, niggas die. Do you agree with that particular statement in terms of, I guess when I see it, like women seem to be men's prize. Is that true? Is that what we're only working towards as men?
Was he talking about relationships? Was he talking about?
I think he was just referencing in terms of, that's why dudes be falling out a lot of the times is over women.
It is. I mean, even when you look at it right now, socially, the reason why so many men despise relationship coaches is because the relationship coaches have the ear of the women. And the guys who aren't relationship coaches don't have the ear of the women. So because I'm seen as a relationship coach, my YouTube audience is 95% women. And so a lot of men are jealous of that because they don't understand the headache of that. It's hard understanding one woman. For me, I got to hear the complaints and the arguments and the disagreements and the demands of millions of women. My audience is 3.5 million people online. And across the board, 80% will be women. And if I say one thing that hold women accountable, they all attack me. I get attacked by a lot of, not all of them. There's some of them that get it. And so it's painful, but it's men who want that attention of a woman so that they could serve them up on a silver platter.
Got you.
When I have no desire to touch any woman in my community.
Right.
And so that's the thing, is still just jealousy over who's getting the attention from women.
That's deep. Even you guys being considered relationship experts, that's profound to even point that out. It makes me think about this. You have certain experts who have, been front and center. They build these audiences with women. And then, years later, some stories come out and then you kind of see like he wasn't practicing what he was preaching. Enter like a Derek Jackson, for example. It seems that this is a narrative that's playing out in his particular life. Is there something that women should pay attention to as like a red flag when it comes to these guys that say, hey, I'm here to help? Or that they're actually there to help themselves?
I think the biggest sign for me has always been if a man praises and promotes his wife. If a man praises and promotes his wife, it doesn't mean that he won't cheat, but it makes it extremely hard for him to cheat. Because one thing I have found is, and that's why I post my wife and post reels of her, and she posts about me, and I put her in for the longest, I only followed my wife on Instagram. And it was for that reason.
Okay.
Some people thought it was me trying to be arrogant, but I was trying to show people I'm serious about the work that I do, and I'm serious about my woman. So when I saw Buddy, when I see all these different guys who claim to be relationship coaches and I can't see their wife, that's an immediate red flag for me. Because the first time I saw Buddy's wife was after he got exposed for cheating.
That's real.
I didn't even know he was married. And that's the sad part. But the thing about it is it's sad because Black men don't see a lot of opportunity. And so when a Black man who wanted to be a pro athlete or wanted to be a rapper or a comedian or an actor, because we're only sold that you could be successful in entertainment or media or drug dealing or scamming, when that doesn't work out, then they started to look and see me and Steve Harvey with his book. Like, oh, I could talk to women and get rich. And that was the sad part.
Going back to your definition of players, telling somebody what they want to hear to get what they want. I could see a lot of players going into a space like that. Steve Harvey, you just mentioned him. One of the biggest criticisms that he gets is that he's been divorced so many times. How dare he enter a relationship space? Do you have any commentary on that? Why do you agree that Steve should be the one kind of giving these messages? Or do you kind of be like, yo, Steve, fall back because you haven't quite perfected what it is to be in a relationship?
I think we all should teach from our mistakes, but when you're teaching, make sure you're living it. Because I don't want to learn from somebody who hasn't experienced it and who doesn't know. But if they still doing it, I don't want them to be my teacher. So I want to see that the change is real. And so from what I could see from Steve, which at that level, you never really know because who gonna tell? But from what I can see, and he praises and promotes his wife. And then he's old enough to where you would like to hope he doesn't have the energy to be out here slanging. Right. And so he should not just focus on it because he is like a representation of life overall as a Black man, of just overcoming and pressing forward.
We can see ourselves through his climb.
Right. I don't see him as a relationship coach. I see it as the industry said, hey, you got this Strawberry Letter. It's very popular. You could write a book as a man and we could make some money. But the publisher makes all the money. But that also, the reason why I love the fact that Steve did that book is because it shows people it ain't enough money in it if you're not passionate about it. It can't be about the money, especially if you're used to money or you've made some money. So Steve got that, he wrote that book and he got on out the way. He did not do a relationship tour. He didn't do 3, 4, 5 books. I've written 17 books. My first book came out 2 years before Steve Harvey book. So that's the difference that a lot of people miss. And when people on the outside looking in, they lump everybody in. But it's some people who call to it and some people who just came to it.
You think maybe Steve came to it?
I think he was brought to it. I think that the publishing world, the people around him showed him the opportunity of capitalizing on giving advice to a hungry audience of Black women. And I remember hearing like maybe he sold like 3 million books or something like that, which is an insane number because only 2% of authors sell 2,000 books in their entire life. So to sell 1 million books, to sell 100,000 books is insane. So I feel like in our world, people see business opportunities. And it could have just been something that where he said, hey, this will help. But the people around him probably was like, oh, this also gonna make us some money. And nothing, no knock against him, because a lot of women said it helped them. And to be honest with you, when I listen to Steve, the stuff I've heard him say about a relationship, I haven't heard him say anything wrong. I haven't heard him say something that I don't agree with.
Right.
And so I respect that. And he's old enough and wise enough
to should have the game. And
exactly.
Yeah. And that's interesting. That's a great point. Like, I would love to see more Black men like that in our communities, being able to kind of, whether they have celebrity status or not, giving us the information, letting us know how to navigate. Now, to keep our conversation in the Harvey household, there is a young lady named Lori Harvey. Lori Harvey, man, how do I explain? She's an influencer, the stepdaughter to Steve, and she's making her rounds in terms of the dating space. Most recently, she was with Michael B. Jordan. Your thoughts instantly when you saw that those two were together, did you think that that was something that was going to last? And were you surprised that it didn't?
I was surprised that Lori and Michael broke up so soon.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when you get together, people are hoping that you fail, and people in the spotlight, they'll hold on for that reason, so that the haters are proved wrong. So I was shocked that they fell apart so fast, but I kind of felt like it would happen, because a relationship is like a puzzle. And when you are the same piece, you can't fit together. You just stack on top of each other.
Got you.
So she is the female version of him, and he's the male version of her.
Right.
And so when you both in the industry, and you both are, he was voted, I think, like sexiest man alive by some magazine at one point, and she is said to be the sexiest woman alive by a lot of men. It just doesn't really fit, because you kind of got to be able to fit around each other.
What kind of woman do you think will work well for Michael B. Jordan?
A woman that is a corporate woman, a woman or like a business owner. So like an executive at Google or at BET, she has a 9-to-5. And so now she balances him. When he's working on a movie, when he's gone, she could be home and be stable. But when you got a woman that's going to be in LA, when you got to be in New York, it's going to be hard to make that work long term, especially when you have kids. And then also a woman that is his age. So you can't be 35 and try to pluck off a 25-year-old who got the whole world in front of them.
Right.
So I'm always against relationships that intentionally have a larger age gap than 5 years.
Okay.
It can work. There are exceptions to the rule, but it's a reason why we don't necessarily relate to our parents, because our music is different, our dress is different, you know, our resources are different. So when you get with somebody that's 10 years younger than you, 9-10 years younger than you,
right,
you're not going to be in the same place in life. You're going to want different things than they want. You're going to see the world totally different than they see it. And so now you're trying to coerce someone to change, or vice versa.
Or dumb down yourself, not to say dumb down, but, you know, change who you are to try to align with them.
We're in this day and age now to where it's so much technology. A woman can have a child at 35, 40, 45. So if she's 25 years old, she may be looking at the next 5 to 7 years of just continuing to build her brand, stack her money. But he's at the age, he may be ready to settle down and have a child.
Right.
And that's the selfish thing about men is, and I say this myself too, I did the same thing unintentionally. My wife was in school to be a doctor. And then we got pregnant.
Yeah.
And then our son was born 2.5 months early. So it derailed her dreams. And she had to choose between medical school and a special needs child. And any good woman is going to choose her special needs child.
Right.
And he's not special needs in the form of like autism, but he was in the hospital for 3.5 months. And then when he came home on a feeding tube.
Got you.
So here she is having to study 8 to 16 hours a day and take care of a sick son, while I go out and work 40 hours a week trying to pay our bills. And so that's what happens. A lot of men get this woman who is like a prize and then want to sit her down.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to happen all the time. But now it's like women saying, look, you ain't finna sit me down. I got too much motion right now.
Yep. And that's what it seems that Lori Harvey is doing, because this isn't the first celebrity that she was connected to. Future was another one, and I think Trey Songz was somebody, and I've even seen her with Diddy at times. So do you kind of like co-sign the way that she's moving and giving herself, I guess, some time to figure out, like, what do you, because there's people that feel like she's playing these guys. What is your thoughts, Mr. Tony Gaskins' thoughts on Lori Harvey's dating pattern?
I feel like for one side, she's starstruck, even though Steve Harvey, her stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by starstruck is just curiosity to see what is P. Diddy like? What is Future like? What is this person like? And it could be no more than conversation and them going out to dinner a few times and the camera's catching it. She could have not slept with any of those men other than we would assume Michael B. Jordan. We would assume the first guy she was with, the soccer player. That's when I first heard of her, she was with the soccer player. And so for her to like be relatively unknown at that point and to be with this guy, this soccer player, and then they didn't work out. One thing I've learned is you never know. I rarely see a woman walk away from love. But one thing I do see is a lot of men take love for granted. And we have kind of like an ugly duckling syndrome. So we go and we get this beautiful woman, and then we're like, oh man, if I can get this woman, who else can I get? How many other women can I get? And then sometimes you get the fantasy and realize the reality don't match the fantasy. So you get the fantasy and then she's still plucking chin hairs, or it's something else going on behind closed doors and you like, whoa, this ain't what I thought it was. And then on the other side, a man could get a woman like that and become overly controlling and insecure because he knows every man wants her. Who in your DMs? Show me your DMs. Let me see your DM. I saw you talking to such and such. Why are you talking to such and such? That could turn violent quickly and nobody could even know. But the thing about black women is they could go through something just like Tia Mowry. For a while, I saw a video the other day and they had a thumbnail of her crying, saying she tell the real reason why she left. I didn't get to watch it. But she could be protecting her husband. Lori could be protecting these men. So when I look at it, because I deal with so many women, I get to hear the flip side. And I always ask my wife, because I know my wife was not a loose woman. And I know even me being married to her, I really got to oil my wife down to be able to have her. She not no, she's not a nympho and she ain't jumping my bones. I got to make love to her mind. So when I see somebody like Kim Kardashian or Lori Harvey or Khloe Kardashian, these polarizing women, I ask my wife, well, what you think about it? And then she says to me, well, she's a public figure. She's not dating any more men than any other woman. Every single woman have had 5 different men that they dated, but nobody's taking pictures of us. And she's dating on the level that she's exposed to. So a woman who work up the street, she dating men who work up the street. A woman who is a celebrity, she date men who is a celebrity. And so it's kind of like on the outside looking in, I say it could be her playing the game because her mom was said to have been with big time dope boys and be like about the money. And then got Steve Harvey, who got a lot of money. And she could be taught like, hey, use these guys who trying to use you to build your platform, to run up them numbers, and then drop your skincare line. When you get all these numbers from being connected to these guys, and people gonna talk whether you a nun or whether you a stripper. So you ain't got to sleep with none of them. Don't worry about it. People assume you are. At the end of the day, you got a brand, you got a name, and you living your life, you having fun. And so I look at it both ways. It could be that to where she taught how to handle it, and it could be the other side to where she really looking for love and no man is really ready.
That's great to say. We mentioned Diddy, a part of that piece of the conversation, and he's been in the news, which is Diddy's always been in the news, but he's in the news again because he's been linked to Young Miami. And it's a conversation that we all know, which is side chick and whatnot. Have you been kind of keeping up with that dynamic? And I guess I think some people are criticizing Young Miami, trying to call her stupid, I guess, for being a part of that. Do you think that's stupid if they have like their own agreement of like, hey, these are our boundaries that we're gonna have? Just love to know your thoughts on that situation.
I don't think she's stupid. And I think, so let's say if Lori Harvey was taking the angle of, I'm gonna go on dates with these guys and I'm gonna kick it with them and it's gonna build my brand. And if they trying to use me, they're gonna end up playing themselves. I feel like Young Miami could be doing the same thing. You can't talk like she talk and come from what she come from and not know the game.
Right.
She know the game.
Right.
And the thing about it is, it's garbage men doing the same thing. It's construction workers doing the same thing. So we all come as men, we all come from nothing, and we all done seen guys play the game in a very dirty and vicious way. For a lot of women, they looking at it like, it don't matter who I'm with, I'm gonna get cheated on. I'm gonna get lied to. It's everyday guys having side babies.
Yep.
And then Diddy, who practically a billionaire, on paper at least, it's like, he gonna have a million options. So I honestly see it as, this could be a moment for her. She might not even be really taking him serious. She might be looking at it like, listen, I'm building my brand.
Marketing.
I'm getting opportunity. This gonna sell more records. This gonna make me more money. And at the end of the day, that could be both of their plan.
Right.
We don't know. That's one thing I've learned from coaching celebrities, is that so many times I coach celebrities and I'm on a non-disclosure agreement, and 90% of what your favorite gossip blog is posting is fake. And because the celebrity or the influencer has to be honest with me in order for me to help them,
Right.
they're telling me the real truth. And what we're reading on the blog is completely false. And
But they want that to be false, or they're helping push the.
I feel like a lot of blogs make it up, and a lot of blogs get fake reports.
Right.
From said sources. And we live in America. It's a capitalistic country. So if I'm running a blog and I know that I'm not gonna get sued, I'm finna make me some stuff up for some headlines. Or I'm gonna take one little thing I heard and I'm gonna run with it. Allegedly, source says.
Yeah.
Now I'm removing liability from myself, and this person not finna tie up $1 million to take me to court.
Right.
But yet I done got 1 million+ views, 1 million+ impressions, and I done made thousands of dollars.
Right.
And so that's what I've learned, is that I try to look at and teach lessons from what possibly could happen, but I realized that we will never know, because Diddy literally could have went to her and said, hey, you're a young woman, you got a lot of stuff going, let's do this right here, this gonna run your bag up. And it's gonna be some flack. Everybody hate on me, but we know what we doing. And as long as we here, that's all that matters.
Right.
It could easily be that.
Yeah. Because I was looking at I don't have those relationships closely with celebrities, and they're letting me know what's really going on in their personal lives. But I was looking at the Diddy situation. He was with an influencer walking, and I was looking at that picture like, I don't know why that feels like a stage moment. It was very weird. It felt very like why is Diddy walking in the street with this woman, and who told him, or who said that we're out walking? It just felt very set up. So I can understand the alignment of that. It just makes me kind of go into the side chick culture. Why do you think we as men have had side chicks in our past? Or why do you think the side chick exists?
I think it's because I feel like side chicks exist because we are so empty and we have so many voids. So when you're in a relationship as a man, it's not a lot of praise from a woman. Your woman is not gonna be your number one fan because she can't really believe in your Superman because she gets to see your Clark Kent every day. Superman could stop a bullet, Clark Kent can't. So when a woman get to smell your stuff, she's not going to be clapping and praising you all the time because she's dealing with your pain. She is your trauma dump.
Mm-hmm.
So when she shuts down, when she has a headache, when she can't have sex, when she's not singing your praises, it then makes a man go to another woman to fill that void.
Mm-hmm.
Not realizing that the other woman, her goal is basically to be this woman. The woman who has the house, who has the car, who has the unity, but then she's going to be just like her, going through the same process of being human.
Mm-hmm.
Women have headaches.
Mm-hmm.
Women have periods.
Mm-hmm.
Women have a lot to deal with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So a grown woman really can't be responsible for the ego of a grown man. And that's what I had to learn. And I'll say to my wife, like, look at this comment, look at this comment, look at this comment. And she's like, okay, congratulations, good for you. I said, it don't matter to me. I want to hear that from you. And I said that, but then I heard several other influencers, men, tell me the same thing. Like, man, I go here, I go there, and all the women like, woo, woo. And he was like, when I come home, my wife like, hey, pick that up over there.
Right.
And then I had to realize that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Like, yeah, she's supposed to affirm us and speak life to us, but she's not supposed to treat us like a fan.
Right.
She's supposed to keep us humble. She's
Right.
supposed to love us for who we really are.
Right.
Which is flawed, imperfect human beings.
Right.
And she's dealing with a whole lot. And so I think that's why the side chick thing exists. Is she the vacation? She's the trash can. I can't have a side chick because of what I do and what I believe.
Yeah.
My belief system. So that right there
definitely will hurt the business.
It holds me accountable.
Yeah.
You know, because, and a lot of times people say, I've said that, and women say, oh, well, that means you don't love your wife. I said, no, I have accountability outside of my wife because we've seen over and over, love ain't enough to keep a man faithful. Men cheat on a woman that he will kill for. A man would cheat on a woman that he literally would take your life over because he doesn't value or he doesn't see that cheating as something he's doing wrong.
What he might be feeding is selfish.
He's feeding himself. And so that's the thing. It takes more than that. I tell my wife all the time, I'm not faithful to just you. I'm faithful to God. I fear God removing his hand from me if I don't live a righteous lifestyle, if I don't live an honest lifestyle. And then number two, I've come to find out it's vanity and vexation of spirit. That side chick stuff is empty. It's worthless. It really doesn't serve anything other than your pain, your trauma, or your ego. Because it's just an exchange. And at the end of the day, it's just an orgasm. And it's like, what is that?
Yeah, that's real. Now, an extension, or to take a side chick scenario to another level, polygamy is now becoming a conversation, which seems that it kind of scratches the same itch. You know, as a man, having two women that I like, that feels good. That's not a bad thought. You know, Dr. Umar recently, there was a ceremony where he married two women. What is your thoughts about Dr. Umar's marriage to two women and pushing for polygamy? Do you think polygamy is a solution, or do you believe strictly in monogamy?
I think it's sad. I really think it's sad just because it's no real foundation. And it's women who support it. Since I have recently said this, it's been women, a few, just a handful. I've seen like 3, which shows you how just outlandish it is. But as a man, I think about it like this. I'm a man. I done slept around. I done been out there. I could go to a state and have 2 wives if I want to have that. But when I ask myself, what purpose does it serve? The only purpose that it will serve is that someone is always pouring into me, which means I'm empty. It means when this woman is tired and she has a headache or her period is on, I got another woman to pick up the slack and to do what she's not doing.
Mm.
And then when she's tired, I go back to this woman. But the world does not need me to be fruitful and replenish the earth anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need two women to be keeping them barefoot and pregnant. So I only need one woman to have children with or adopt kids with. It's no purpose of having two women other than just to feed the ego, to fill voids, to massage trauma. It's like a human teddy bear.
Yeah.
Because it makes no logical sense. And then when you really love a woman and you're really trying to get to know a woman, you're really trying to build with a woman, it's exhausting because it's hard learning another human and existing with another human. It's hard. That's why the divorce rates are what they are. Because as humans, we all have different likes and wants.
Mm-hmm.
So to double that, it's really a detached man who is only reaping benefits.
Mm.
He's not in the trenches with his heart and in love. And when you fall in love, you learn that it's impossible to be in love with two women at one time.
And so there's counters to that people will feel that the ratio of man to woman. If one man goes to one woman, there's gonna be some women left out. What do we do?
It is. And that's the thing. It's just,
It is what it is.
Right. It's just, it's not going to be. But see, here's the thing. If one man goes to one woman, eventually the numbers are going to flip. There's more women than men because there's so many single mothers. So all our other men that could be on the market are dead to gun violence or in prison.
Okay.
But if men start focusing on one woman, then we're raising boys to be husbands and not to graduate to the penitentiary.
Interesting.
Or to lose their life.
So
in
you
the
think
street.
by natural law, those numbers would balance each other out, or they won't be as drastic?
Exactly.
Because I thought that more women are born. Is that not real, or?
Yeah, and that could be an issue of more women being born. But at the same time, with those women being born, not all of those women are gonna be relatable or want a black man. So it's a large percentage of women right now. There's a black woman divestment movement. They're going to other races. They're going to Asian men. They're going to white men. Now, for the most part, they're getting the outcast of those men. But one woman's trash is another woman's treasure, I guess, and vice versa. And they say a lot of black men going outside their race. One lady told me it's 15%, according to Pew Research. So I look at it like this. For everybody who wants marriage and who desires marriage, those people will be able to meet somebody, because it'll be a lot of people who don't want marriage. Right. And it'll be a lot of people who say, this is not for me. And there's so many people today saying, marriage ain't for me. Relationships ain't for me. So they're out of the equation. And one thing about it is cream rise to the top. So if you're doing what you're supposed to do and you elevating and you growing, you go into that top 1%, and there's a top 1% for you. But just for all the riffraff and you ain't working on yourself, you're not loving yourself, you're not doing, you're going to fall by the wayside regardless. And I feel like we just have to stop breaking down ourselves from the inside out and start raising. Because if a man got two wives, what's that's going to tell his daughter? What is that going to tell his son? And then his daughter going to grow up and say, well, oh, I need to share a man with another woman because there's not enough men. And the thing that I want men to think about is we need to love a woman the way we want our daughter to be loved. We need to love a woman the way we would want our son to love. And sometimes men don't care about their daughter. Well, what about your mom? What about your grandmother? How would you feel as a man growing up watching your mom be one of 2 or 3 or 4 wives? Just be like, it'll be hard to respect a woman because you sharing your husband with these other women. So you the Tuesday, Thursday woman. and then she the Monday, Wednesday woman, and the other lady the Friday, Sunday. So I think a lot of times we just don't think about it logically. We're thinking about it selfishly.
I would definitely say it's selfish. My own experiences, not being married to two women, but dating two women, like really dating two women at the same time, and kind of, I came at it, I would feel authentically and genuine and liked both of them, but that can only last for so long. And the guilt of knowing that, you might have brought someone further than you might have wanted, and knowing that they really were liking you, and that has to continue, it comes to an end. And I don't really take a big loss because I already have my chips somewhere else. It's pretty tough to examine that, but that's true. I think it is selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it makes me think about Nick Cannon. Man, there seems to be fingers being pointed at him because of his decision to have children with multiple women. But there's also fingers pointing at the women that are like, F it, I'm down for it. Why do you think these women are choosing to get with Nick Cannon's program?
Because it's enough lost and hurt women for Nick Cannon's program to work. And there's lost and hurt, broken, beautiful women and women of all races. So there's enough women in the world for Nick to be able to pull off what he's pulling off. And at the end of the day, when you just look at people as a whole, there's always going to be a group of people that have lost hope. So those women are telling themselves, there aren't any good men left. If I get with one of these men that's approaching me, I'm going to be a broke single mother. I'm going to be stressing and having to take care of the kid. But if I have this baby from a multi-millionaire, he's going to be able to provide for the child. And then if he doesn't, eventually he going to die. And my child going to be in line for some of his estate. And so I've dealt with women, working with women who literally plot on a man who has money just to have his baby. And it's because for them, they don't want to work. They feel too pretty to work. They don't want to be sweat and tired. And they know with the right man, you're going to get at least $5,000 a month. And it ain't a whole lot of jobs that pay you more than $5,000 a month unless you got a degree or you expert in something. And so there's enough women to go around with that. But I look at Nick and I say, as a man, the only way I would do that is if I'm dying from something and nobody knows, but what I'm dying from is not a sexually transmitted disease, or I plan to die or take my life early. So it scares me more for Nick than it does for the women, because the women are not entering an existence that millions of other women aren't already living.
Right.
But it scares me for Nick because as a man, it does not make logical sense to just go impregnate 8 different women. So I'm like, what is it about his legacy or about his name that he's afraid is gonna die off?
Wow.
Because he doesn't seem like a vicious person that he just wants a bunch of kids running around with a broken or stolen identity. Questioning
that's the call. That could be the result.
That's gonna be the result. That's gonna be the result. And he's gonna see his children, if he lives to see it, and he's gonna see his children as 18, 19, 20 with identity crisis, because they're gonna be able to read the headlines and they're gonna see that it wasn't these circumstances that forced him to leave their mom. They're gonna see that they were a conscious and deliberate illegitimate choice, which is an oxymoron.
Which is not done out of love and foundation. And wow, I guess there's also part of it too. Celebrities, and I don't want to generalize them, but they seem to be a group of people that really want to, the fame, the clout, really, it gets their wheels turning. And I wonder now, because Nick gets talked about so much, is he doing it for those reasons now? It's like, well, shit, this attention feels great. I'm excited about this attention. I'll go make another kid and have y'all talking. Maybe teach into that space.
It could be that. And it's just like there's so much spiritual warfare, just meaning mental health issues. We're so in our head as humans that there's a narrative that he's telling himself that may or may not be true, but he has believed it. And that is causing him to do this.
Yep.
Because it's almost like if it was like a DC comic or something or a Marvel movie, he would be like the evil impregnation villain that just goes around impregnating women to disrupt their life, but to let his seed, the spawn of him, live on.
Wow.
And because it just does not make any sense unless he has just bought into some type of mindset that, hey, this is how I'm gonna live on forever.
Well, I'll put this on our table. Dick Gregory, he had 10 children, but he did have one wife. And his philosophy, and I mention this because Nick was somewhat saw Dick Gregory as a mentor. That was one of his mentors. But Dick Gregory was trying to prevent, and I already know this is going as I even talk this through, was trying to prevent Black genocide. So he was about like, I want to multiply Black seeds, Black children. But as I even say that, I think about the women that Nick has slept with have not always been Black women. So that theory may not be exactly aligning. What is your thoughts about that, though, in terms of Black men who choose outside of their race?
I feel like a lot of Black men, I remember my first book, one of the questions, I answered 10 questions. And the book was titled, What Daddy Never Told His Little Girl. And one of the questions was, why do Black men date white women? And at that time, it was two reasons that I saw. The one reason was to get back at white people.
Okay.
And that's why I did it.
Okay.
The other reason was because the Black guy was not accepted by Black women. And then the other reason was because of self-hate and just feeling like his race is ghetto, his race is dumb, his race is lost, and this other race is superior. Yeah. And those were the three main reasons. I very rarely saw it just be an organic love connection. My close friend, best friend, his wife is white. It was an organic meeting. He was not looking for a white woman. He didn't necessarily want a white woman. You know, he's very dark-skinned brother. But she was used to dating Black guys. She had dated Black guys. She wasn't necessarily pursued or chased by white guys. And she grew up around Black people. And so she was comfortable in that space. And she was there for him. She treated him different. You know, he had his heart broke right before that by a Black woman. So sometimes it's the same thing that that Black women date white men for. It's that reason. The other reason is when you see Black men who were raised in the suburbs and went to private school and they think like white people because they were around them. And they have financial literacy. They are cultured. They've traveled. And then your everyday Black woman, she may not be on that mindset.
Got you.
Unless she comes from the same thing. And sometimes those two people in the same environment don't like each other.
Yeah.
Because they're in a predominantly white institution. And so it's like, hey, you a Black person in here? I'm supposed to be the only Black person in here. What you doing here? And so that Black girl gets a white guy and that Black boy gets a white girl. And so it's today, it's becoming more of a trend. I've been watching commercials, and if you pay attention to the media, I've been seeing a lot of commercials. I just watched a commercial last night, and it was marketing Zelle, which is very random. And it had a white man who was tall and kind of lanky, would be described as kind of nerdy or corny. And it had a Black woman as his wife, who had natural hair, the short hairstyle with like the little twists. She was lighter complected, but a little heavy set. And so when you look at him, he's not desired by white women because of his build and his look and his voice. And then you look at her look is not often desired by black men because black men are, same reason, being programmed by society on what beauty standards are. So those two people who are outcasts in their race, they come together. And he says, hey, I see the beauty and the best in you when your men don't. And she says, I see the beauty and the best in you when your women don't. And they come together like that.
Because that was always like a running joke about the type of white women black men would go to, be like, what? Like, why are you picking that? And some of them, yeah, it would be like a regular, looking white woman who is not necessarily cream of her crop, but then the brother would like, hold her up on an altar.
What bothers me in this space of the interracial is when black men who have never been pursued because of their looks get money and get a white woman. And it's like, how can you let this woman, who is a beautiful white woman, that under any circumstances, any other circumstances other than you being a millionaire, would she want you, or would her dad allow her to be with you? How do you allow yourself to get played on that level? That's what bothers me. It's like, bruh, you got the opportunity with millions of dollars as this NBA draft pick, NFL draft pick, to revitalize your community, to build black wealth, to start generational wealth in the black race, and you go out of self-hate or greed or, limiting beliefs or whatever it is, because it's rarely organic. And then a lot of times it is organic for him, but he doesn't realize he was played on. He doesn't realize that. And that's why I stopped dating outside my race.
Got you.
My mother was a black woman. She very light skinned. She came to me. For one, she had my grandma call me. And my grandma was from Alabama, Selma, Alabama. She said, baby, I was in college playing football. She said, baby, I heard you dating white girls. She said, baby, please don't do that. Them people hurt me so bad. Them people done so much wrong to me.
Wow.
Please don't do that to me, little Tony. And then my mama came to me and she said, Tony, I'm not racist, but the thing that I do not like is that white women have everything. And on top of having everything, they come and take our best men. She said, Tony, you handsome, you smart, you God gifted, you've been favored your whole life. A black woman deserves you. And that right there, because I love those women, and I realized that love is not found, love is created. I said, well, I could create love with a black woman if it means that much to these black women in my life.
Because, when you were dating white women, what was the fulfillment for you? You said your way of getting back at the system, at the man. Did you feel connected to these white women?
No, not at all. I didn't love them at all. I liked what they did for me. But as I look back on it, I knew that I was an experiment for them and they were an experiment for me, because I wasn't the only one for them and they weren't the only one for me. So for both of us, it was more so rebellion than it was an organic and real search for real love.
Yeah.
It was more so going against the system. It was some of them getting back at their dad.
Yeah.
Or getting back at their mom. Or getting back at their ex-boyfriend who was white. And the white guys didn't like it either. The same way the black women didn't like it, the white guys didn't like it. And I went to one white guy and I said, hey, I said, man, how do y'all feel about, and it's a wealthy white guy. I said, how do y'all feel about white women who date black men? He said, we don't feel about them. They're white trash. And I was like, dang, he gonna say that to my face, telling me that
I
if a
respect it, though.
if a white woman get with me, she white trash?
Yeah.
But that's what he said. And we had that relationship, we could be real. And I went to another white guy. I said, what do you think about white men who date black women? He said, those are men who want to be controlled. He said, we see them as he used the word pansies or pussies. And I was like, all of them? He said, yeah. I said, why you say that? He said, because in our race, black women are seen as loud and dominant and aggressive. So no white man wants a black woman unless he wants to be whipped, unless he wants to be controlled. And so I just like to go and talk to people directly and get a real unfiltered answer, even though it may be biased to a degree, because the people in interracial relationships probably want to hang me at the stake for sharing this real life experience.
That's real. Because it always, you know, we are human beings. We do connect, you know, for different reasons. I have not dated a white woman in my lifetime. I think for me, I just couldn't look past of what we gonna talk about. Those, you know, those are just really like, what we gonna do? Not to say that they're not attractive. You know, I'm still a man. I think women in totality of what they represent is beautiful. But I could never see myself going to like a real extent of like dealing with a white woman. And so it is unfortunate because you hit something on the head about why certain brothers go to white women, and it does seem like there's a trigger here of rejection when it comes to the black woman rejecting the man and this cycle it creates. And it makes me think about, and we've talked about this on our platform, we bring up Kevin Samuels, we bring up the podcast brothers that's been in this space. Man, how do we unpack that? Like, how do maybe some of these black men heal whatever they are that is empty in them? What needs to happen? Because it does seem like quite a few of these brothers from my examination have not been successful with women. Therefore, now they have this energy on them. My energy don't align with that. I've been able to have, I think, a great dating experience, and I like women, and they cool, and I could talk to them. But there's some brothers that have like this pointing the finger at them. You did me wrong, and how do we unpack that?
For one, I could say I could tell that you are healed or healing because you had me on your platform, and I don't get invited to male host. Like if a man is in power, I don't get invited to the platform.
Wow.
For whatever reason. And I think it has to do with my message, bringing and holding men accountable. But two, I feel like men have to admit, like I look myself in the mirror and I said, Tony, you were a lame. You were scared.
Wow.
You were insecure. You were trying to get attention. And that's why you sold drugs. That's why you were a womanizer. That's why you were a thief. You were a punk. That's why you were an abusive, toxic, controlling boyfriend. And I think a lot of men do not admit it. And if you don't admit that you can feel it, then you can't heal it. So instead of saying, hey, my heart was ripped out my chest by a black woman, and it was because she really wasn't a woman I should have been dealing with. But I was listening or thinking with the little head instead of the big head. And I just wanted her based on lust. And she was out of my league. And so I came in as a square, or she saw me as a square or a lame or a cornball. And her whole mission was to use me from the jump. But I should have known that. And I should have went for the woman that saw me as a person and liked me for me. But instead, I wanted her out of my ego. It's kind of like Rob Kardashian and Black China.
Right.
It's like when they got together, you could see that she knew the game and she out there, she living life, and that she making this chess move. And for whatever reason, he didn't realize that no woman who is popping on that level genuinely wants a man who is in the shape that he was in.
So he wasn't being honest with himself.
Right. He wasn't being honest with himself. So then when he got what he got, it was like, oh, wow, she did me nasty, but he couldn't see himself. And I think that's the same thing with a lot of brothers, is they can't see themselves and see that they were operating from the wrong place. And we're not being real with ourselves. So it's like, for me, I'm real when it comes to human compatibility, looks compatibility. I understand that if I was a single man, I'm not on Lori Harvey level because I'm 5'10", and every woman want a man 6 foot or taller.
Okay.
And if she done seen the whole world,
You mean just off pure looks, no status? We just got
just
you.
pure looks.
Got
Like
you.
now, no, her at status. If we was
And what
of her
she can
status
get.
and what she can get.
Fair.
Now, if we in middle school, yeah, we're on the same level because you're not factoring in money and over 6 foot tall and all of that. But in right now, it's like men are playing themselves and women are playing themselves and they're not understanding looks compatibility and they going in, and here's the key. People are seeking approval and not love. They want to get somebody so that it says, if I land this person, I am worthy. I am attractive. I am somebody. And that's why we go after people who are not on the same level or compatible with us, whether it be looks, socially, economically. We hurt ourselves.
I want to examine a couple relationships and see if they were compatible. You mentioned looks is something that's compatible. And I think about one couple in particular that always have gotten slack, particularly on the male point of view, on the male perspective. You have the 6'2" Jay-Z and Beyonce. Would you have seen that working in the way that it did based off your vantage point? Or do you think, are there elements on why that relationship works and has been working?
As them, as who they are,
Got you.
they are a fit because a regular man cannot handle Beyonce's fame and where she's at. And truth be told, Jay-Z can't even handle it if the whole lemonade thing is real. But them being at that level, publicity stunts on that level could be real too. But I can't really see them doing all of that if it was fake, but it could have been. So men, and I believe I heard Lil Wayne say this in a song, that men equate our self-worth to our net worth. So therefore, if Beyonce got a different type of man, he would either falsely worship her like a goddess and kiss the ground that she walks on and drink her dirty bathwater out of a straw until he got used to the taste. And then he would treat her like any other woman. Or he would come in and try to break her and hurt her because she had boyfriends before Jay-Z who let her go, who squandered her, who couldn't hold on to her. But on looks compatibility, Jay-Z's unique features has never been praised because of the programming that we've received from the white race.
Unique features. That's
his lips, his nose. His lips and nose is what was put in the characters and the movies. And we all know that. And every single person in the world says that Jay-Z and Beyonce aren't looks compatible. And that's why Jay-Z had to come out and say, which confirms it, there's no such thing as an ugly billionaire.
Got you.
He said that in a line.
Yeah, he did.
He did? He said that in a line?
Yeah.
Because I don't know rap like that, but I could have swore I heard him say that. But that's why he said that. Because he knows that even and this is what I tell every person, would you have been looks compatible with this person in the 8th grade? Although, yes, we grow and our looks change and we can grow into ourselves. That's a different story. But, and that's what I tell men, if this woman wouldn't have been attracted to you in the 8th grade before your money and before your fame, that ain't your wife. And guys don't see that. And honestly, a lot of men don't care. They understand that their money affords them a woman that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to get.
Yeah, and the line was, ain't no such thing as an ugly billionaire. I'm cute.
You see what I'm saying? And I've never heard a woman say Jay-Z is cute. Never.
Yeah.
And this what I'm saying, when we ask our sister, that's when you're gonna get the truth.
The non.
You can't ask the lady online because she know her comment is public and Jay-Z might see it. and might see her as Becky with the good hair and she get to be the side woman. There's a lot of women do a lot of capping for the comments if they trying to get chose. That's why they call her Pick Misha. But when you ask your sister, when you ask your mama, that's when you hear the real answer.
So do you think Beyonce loves Jay though?
I think she fell in love with him, but I believe it was his status that allowed him even the
entry,
the time and opportunity.
Yeah.
And see, that's the downside, but that is what also plays into more men becoming monsters. Because when the everyday men look at a relationship and they can't believe it, and they say this woman only wanted this man because of his status, it makes men lose faith and hope in women and in love. And then the man say, well, why be faithful? Why be honest if I'm gonna get played and not know it just because I got money and status? If a woman gonna lie with me just because I got money. And so we see like shorter men, because I used to do matchmaking because I coached a lot of women and I knew a lot of men. So by doing matchmaking, I would ask women, what are you looking for in a man? 99.9% of women say they want a man 6 foot or taller.
Yeah.
But the average height in America is 5'9". And that's why a lot of women single and they don't.
Why do women want taller men? It just feels more secure.
They say it makes them feel secure. They say they feel like more of a woman if they could tuck up under his arm. And if he's taller than them, they feel like he can protect them. But when you talk to a lot of tall guys, they actually fear shorter men. And when you ask them why, they say because the shorter guys are quicker. They could get off more punches in a short amount of time, and they got them little shorter arms, so it's easy to control, bob and weave. Whereas you got the long arm, it take a long time for that shot to land. And so women don't even understand that a lot of the toughest, strongest, realest, most secure men in the world is Bruce Lee height. Like they under 6 foot tall. Some of your most dominant men, alpha males, as we would call them, is under 6 foot tall. And some of your softest, scariest men is over 6 foot on average. But that's just women looking at the aesthetics because that's what has been sold. So when we get to the root of it, we all just been programmed.
You familiar with B. Simone?
Yes.
So B. Simone, I think a couple years back, went viral because she said she wouldn't date a man that has a 9 to 5. Got a lot of slack for it. But upon even talking to you, you made me think about compatibility. She's a big time celebrity influencer. Would a man that's 9 to 5 work in that space for her?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the thing is what she said, all it said to me is she just hasn't had enough relationship experience and she maybe had a 9 to 5 man that was insecure and that was like programmed, go to work, come home, and it maybe turn her off. But that's the thing that I found that really messes us up. That's also why the divorce rate is high, because what humans don't understand is that your strength comes from your differences, not your similarities. So a man doesn't have to be, or a woman doesn't have to do the same thing that you do to understand what you got to do. So I was in this city last week for work, and I'm in this city again this week for work. My wife understands that.
Right.
And she's a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
And I don't look down on her because she's not a boss woman.
Right.
But there was times that the media made me feel like my wife was less than because she's because she's not a boss woman.
Right.
But then when I talk to boss women, they said, Tony, I don't want to be a boss woman. I want a man so that I can work freely and when I want to, but I don't want to keep having to hustle to make $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, when I talk to the boss women, they want to be my wife. And then a lot of women who are in my wife's position, they want to be the boss woman because the grass is always greener. And so when we're looking for somebody, a lot of times we think that we're going to be stronger if we do the same thing. But it actually breaks us down because it puts us in competition. And when you do the same thing, imagine Steph Curry and Aisha Curry. It's a lot of stability when she could be home with the kids when he's on the road.
Right.
When she started to build her brand and happened to be traveling while he's traveling, it probably was a huge influx of the nanny, a lot of nanny presence.
Yeah.
So now the kids are losing the touch of one of the parents. And then it comes to a place to where one of the parents say, hey, man, our kid's not really gonna know us. Kids gonna look at us like they brother or sister versus their mama or daddy because they spending more time with the nanny than they are with us. And that's what I tell people. And I asked my wife several times. I say, why don't you start a company? I'm like, you're in a position you can start any kind of company. We can invest in any company you want to. She said, whatever I do, I got to be 100. And she said, I cannot give 100 to a business and 100 to my kids. And she said, I don't care what nobody say, you can't give 100 to both. Even if you give 90 to one and 100 to the other. But most likely, and I think about that, I had to think about it for myself. And I said, you know what? If I'm giving 100 to my business, I'm not 100 with my kids. Because there's been times my son say, Daddy, can you play? And I'm too tired.
Right.
I'm too drained.
Right.
It's been games that I've missed. So if I'm missing a game, that means I'm not 100. If I'm only at 7 out of 10, that means I'm 70 out of 100. But I'm not missing any engagement, so that means I'm 100 out of 100. So I'm 100 there and 70 with my kids. And that's why I had to switch it. So I could be 100 with my kids and I moved my business to online. So I could be 100 with my business.
Gotcha.
So I'm here today with you, but I ain't missing nothing for my kids.
Wow. B. Simone, just to kind of make sure we quote her. She says, he can't have a 9 to 5. He can be a hustling entrepreneur. He can't be clocking in and out and clocking. He can't be clocking in and clocking out. No, I think entrepreneurs should date entrepreneurs. You're not going to understand my lifestyle. You're not going to understand why I'm up at 3 a.m. He has to be an entrepreneur or moving into that direction. And that set the internet off in a frenzy. It has nothing to do with the money. It has everything to do with the lifestyle. Entrepreneurs understand each other. She posted, she later would add, I needed you to understand why I'm up at 3 a.m. checking emails, why I'm always on social media, why I'm never off or clocked out. I need a man to understand and support that.
In my opinion, it's a flawed mindset. Okay. And that's part of the reason why we have so many divorces due to irreconcilable differences. And what she fails to realize is that, and what a lot of women who've said that, because there's a lot of women that have said that, what they fail to realize is that most men don't want a woman that does the same thing that they do, because you cannot have balance and stability.
Right.
So if you're an entrepreneur and I'm an entrepreneur, that means we have the same lifestyle and we understand each other's lifestyle. So if you're always on your phone and you're up at 3 and you're never clocked out, and I'm always on my phone and I'm up at 3 and I'm never clocked out, who is with the kids? When do we have time for each other? Who can be the stability when the other one is going through mental chaos? It's painful being an entrepreneur. So if my wife was an entrepreneur too, our relationship is business.
Yeah.
It's not love.
Yeah.
But my wife is my therapist. She is my life coach. She is my backbone. She is my support system. Like, she's there for me. And it's not rocket science to look at somebody's life and understand it.
Right.
It ain't hard to understand it. Like, we adults. Like, she understand I got to work and I got to grind. And so I think that, like a lot of quotes, it sounds good, but it's not practical.
Sounds like she was projecting maybe what she dealt with. Maybe a guy that didn't get it, who was needy, and made her feel like, man, you make me feel bad for being on my hustle. But that was an isolated incident, because what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I remember, being in the industry and dating someone that was in the industry. It's not the best, because we're both doing things, and I'm kind of the one that, as a man, I want to go work, and then when I'm off work, I want to be able to connect. But if we both hustling, I might be off work and you not ready to connect, and now I'm just kind of waiting around and feeling empty or lonely.
Right.
So for me, that's how I've been able to kind of shift out of that. And I think there is a balance, and it could be vice versa. It could be a woman that's hustling, the dude could be the stay-at-home dad, and
Right.
that's how they get down.
And you know, somebody said the quote, you can't compete where you can't compare. But if you both entrepreneurs, you can compare.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can compare, that means you're competing.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen is when you both entrepreneurs, one business is going to be booming and the other one is going to be failing.
Yeah.
And now whoever is failing is upset with the one who is booming.
Mm-hmm.
And I have dealt with this as a relationship coach with people in the industry that come to me and the woman or the man says, look, we both do the same thing. We both in the same industry, but they don't have anything going on. They done lost their manager. They done lost this gig. They done lost that gig. And now they ride my coattail.
Mm.
Now I got to give them my management. I got to do all their deals. And it's draining. It's exhausting. I don't like having to do that.
Wow.
And that's a very real thing. And that's what people don't understand. So it's really like you want someone, the only thing you want to be the same in a relationship, honestly, for it to have any longevity is your belief system, your foundational beliefs. Foundational beliefs meaning your beliefs about family, your beliefs about finances, your beliefs about faith, your beliefs about fitness, and your beliefs about friends, what I call the 5 F's. If you see that eye to eye, she could be an astronaut and he could be a school teacher. She could be a world traveling singer and he could be a coder. As long as you see them foundational things the same way, you could build a mansion anywhere in the world.
Yep. Couple more relationships. One big relationship, and I'll bring in an old school relationship to kind of like serve as an analogy for some. Krishan Rock and Blueface. Have you seen that dynamic?
Yes, I've seen Krishan and Blueface.
Blueface. Some people might compare them to the new school Bobby and Whitney in terms of the craziness. Man, but I've heard some women around me express that they felt that that's a bad situation for Krishan, that she needs to like get out of that, and they feel bad that she I guess is kind of caught up in who this man is and is falling deeply in love, but maybe some feel like he doesn't really love her.
I think the situation is bad for both of them because I have a quote that says, never play with a heart unless you're a heart surgeon. And what I mean by that is a literal thing. If you don't fix hearts literally, you should not play with anybody's heart because it's a zero-sum game. So he could not love her, and then she falls deeply in love, and then he decides he's gonna leave, and they become an episode of Snapped because she takes his life or she takes the woman's life that he's dealing with because you cannot play with love. So if he's playing with her, he's playing a no-win game. And what women do when they choose to stay in something, they learn the game and they learn how to play it better than the man. So he could end up equally being just as exhausted and hurting, and she could have adapt and enjoy and love the toxicity. It's like, and with that tattoo, I mean, you can't even cover that up.
Yeah, she supposedly has multiple tattoos dedicated to him. That just seems like she has fully committed to this person, and like you said, the heart is dangerous to play with. And I don't know if he has a tattoo of her. Yeah.
It's sad. It's a sad situation. And to be honest with you, like as somebody who coaches relationships, on the outside looking in, they almost look beyond repair.
Okay.
And it's so sad, unless they really want to change and really want to grow, but they're also so young and the industry that they're in, the culture that they're from, and we see so much pain and toxicity. Man, it's a long road, but it's like I'm hoping the best for them and praying for them, because one thing that we don't need as a culture is to have a lens into people's lives who are self-destructing.
Right.
Because if something goes wrong with them, everybody will say, we knew it. But the fact that we knew it and we had to watch it, we're going to be extremely traumatized.
Right.
And we all are going to carry that into our own love life. And that's what I mean by spiritual warfare.
Understood. Another couple, because when we just recently spoke on compatibility, entrepreneurs, were you surprised that Kim Kardashian and Kanye have gotten a divorce? Are you surprised by that not working out?
I wasn't surprised that it didn't work out. And I kind of gave it 3 to 5 years. But when I saw it, it was around the time that Kanye was screaming that he was 53 million in debt. So in my eyes, on the outside looking in, I saw what Kanye did to Kim similar to what Black China did to Rob. To me, it looked like a come up for Kanye. And if we look at it, a lot of people don't look at it like that.
Kanye coming up off Kim.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Because he was 53 million in debt. She probably was 53 million up. Her family had a show. She making money out her ears. And he goes, and it's been said that he has like a porn addiction and all of these things. It was almost like she represents the fantasy of a porn addicted man.
Got you.
And monetarily coming up. And if you realize when he got with her, that's when everything turned around for him. Because at the beginning, he kept saying, I'm 53 million in debt. I'm 53 million in debt. Nobody has my back. Nobody. I called Jay-Z. He didn't answer. I called Seth. He didn't answer. And then he gets with Kim. And now all these deals come through. He started making all this money. He started going up. And I feel like things started to change. He started to change. We started to see his mental, his demeanor, the way he talked. We started to see it change. And then Kim is not innocent because we attract what we are. So they're essentially on the same level, but it was almost like he started to make her look like the victim and like the good person. And like, not to say that she's a bad person. And he started to make himself look like he was unhinged and losing it. And people started saying it's his clone and all kind of crazy stuff. And then the divorce, it's like, I saw it coming because he started to become very unhinged publicly. And I can tell that Kim and her family, they're not going to let anybody sink their ship. And could you imagine what the backlash the Kardashian family would have suffered if she was still married to him when he got canceled?
Right.
Because your presence, yes, your presence sanctions the environment. So she would have just, if she had to stamp him, stand beside him, back him up, it could have just, brands could have said, you know what, you support that then. And they wouldn't even have had to say, we are letting this contract expire and not renewing it because of what your husband said. They just would have let that happen.
I wonder, just on the back end, I'm sure, our significant others will know a lot more about us than the public and our people in our daily lives. So I wonder on the back end, was he telling her these things that we're now hearing? And she's probably like, yo, mom, this man talking about Hitler. And mom is like, what? We got to branch off.
Right. And here's the thing. We men, like we are men, meaning men know men. I know that behind closed doors, me and my wife have had heated conversations. And I have not always communicated the way I should communicate. And my words have come off harsh. But look who I am in the public eye.
Correct.
So I could only imagine how Kanye talk and treat Kim behind closed doors. Because if you are that unhinged publicly and you are unapologetic with it, that is scary.
Right.
That scares me. So to be honest with you, for her, although she is not perfect and innocent, she's still a woman, meaning that as a woman, you don't ever want to see a woman up under or around a man who seems like he could lose it any day, especially being a mother.
Right.
And you got to be whole for your kids. And I know as a man how I could make my wife feel empty if I say the wrong thing. And then she got to go around my kids. And so I looked at it totally different being a coach who I'm in the trenches of relationships every day.
Being a person that has this large audience of Black women, do you think Black women are more loyal to us as Black men?
I feel like Black women are more loyal to us as men than we are to them as women. And I believe it's because Black women feel like the Black man is already under attack at the hands of men of other races. And Black women are our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts. They've always been told, don't ever send a Black man to jail. He put hands on you. If you need to leave him, leave him. Don't call the police, because if you call the police gonna kill him. They've always been told, protect him at all costs. And I'll be honest with you, that's why so many Black men in positions of leadership who have not been perfect, but have not been exposed, because Black women will cover for us. It's mistakes I've made in my past that I did not have to pay the piper for because Black women covered for me. And that's the honest truth. But a lot of time we aren't honest about that as men. But as men, what do we see? Did your dad leave your mom or cheat on your mom? If your dad didn't, did your friends, when you look at your friends collectively, how many of their dads stayed in the home and was faithful to their mom? What about your brothers? And if you, after you've looked at every man you know, and you look at yourself, have you, as a man, stayed with one woman, been faithful to that woman, had kids with her, got married to her? So when we look at it as men, on average, we're going to see way more men be disloyal to women than we are seeing women being disloyal to men. And because of that, it's proven by the fact that men, we cannot have a taste of our own medicine. If it was true that Black women are not loyal to us, we would not be shocked when we get cheated on. We would already expect it the way so many women expect it. But we are suicidal or homicidal when it happens because we never thought it would happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of brothers that do seem to, again, not be able to take it well when we're rejected or when she leaves us. Yeah, it becomes this thing of how dare you.
I've heard a lot of artists, a lot of rappers say it in their interviews. Oh, I could do it. She can't do that though.
Right.
She can't do it because she a woman. A woman can't do that. Woman can't cheat. Woman can't have no other man. But no, I'm a man. That's different. That's different. It's different for a man. And so we all say that. We all feel that. And I've been there where I cheated. And then when the woman cheated, when I was in college, I lost my mind. But when I cheated on her, she just cried.
Right.
Then hit me, then yell at me, then curse. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. It's definitely a double standard in terms of that space. With the work that you're doing, just are you proud of what you were able to do within your own personal life of turning it around? Is just reflecting on the work. Like, how did that make you feel that you're able to find a actual a way to make a living for yourself while also healing, I think, in this own process?
So I'll tell you the truth about on the making a living part. Majority of my money comes from online courses. So I teach people how to write books, and I teach people how to be a life coach, and I teach people how to be an entrepreneurship with purpose. So my online academy produces majority of my income. From actual relationship coaching, I still see it as a ministry, as a labor of love, because it's not a lot of money in it. Like the money that I could make could be about $90,000 a year doing one-on-one sessions.
Wow.
But now majority of my sessions are on business, because people may see my wife dripping and say, whoa, you taking care of her, you must know something about business. And so I'm teaching them about business. And as far as myself and me turning my life around, I'm still unsatisfied. Although I'm faithful to my wife and I'm a one woman man, I'm still unsatisfied because every single day I'm judging and critiquing myself. I'm punching myself in the mouth on Tony, you could be better. Tony, you could say this better. Tony, you could listen a little more intently. Tony, you need to look your wife in the mouth while she talking like you watching the Super Bowl. Tony, you need to talk to your son better. You need to be more gentle. Don't say this, don't say that, but yet still hold them accountable. So for me, it's like I'm not satisfied because I'm still imperfect. And I know I'll never be perfect, but it's like every day I want to be better than I was yesterday. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about my message. It's so hard because I'm hard on myself. And I'm also hard on those that's close to me that I'm around because I just believe in excellence. And I took it serious when I read, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. And so for me, man, it's a gift and a curse.
Yeah. And kind of in closing thought, like in life, we look to accomplish certain things and like that we can, the saying, well, rest in peace. Peace seems to be the goal, that when we transpire out of this particular lifetime, we know that we've done it well and we've done what we wanted to do with this one life. What does your ultimate goal look like? Why do you want people to continue to supporting you? Like, what are we doing? Because you have a lot of influence. You're touching the right people, Black women in particular, or women in particular. Yeah, what are we trying to do? What's the goal?
My goal is to make healthy families the norm so that a man could marry a woman, have children, and the children could be raised in love with positive examples of adulthood so that they can grow and become productive citizens. So now we can create generational wealth.
And this is in Black community.
In the Black community.
Wow.
Is I want to represent what I want to see in the world. That's why I show my sons being successful in the things they love to do. I show their straight A's report cards. I show them excelling in their sports. And I show my wife. I show her glowing and dripping. And I want people to understand. And I carry this message that I carry because I could be a motivational speaker. I work with athletes. I work with a lot of pro athletes. I've been working with the NBA since 2010. So I've mentored over 400 NBA players. And I work with Division I sports teams as the team life coach. I could transition into that space and do the same thing Inky Johnson does because I played college football. But I stay in the work that I'm doing because I feel it has a greater impact on us as a whole, us at large.
Yeah.
Instead of me just reaching 15 men in college at a time or 50 men in college at a time.
Right.
So my goal is to change the norm from single motherhood and single fatherhood to healthy, whole, productive households.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to end the teenage pregnancy rate, decrease the teenage pregnancy rate. That's what's going to decrease the crime. And that's what's going to decrease babies being brought in the world without two parents to take care of them. If we could have stability and real love.
You got me thinking, man. What happens? What happens if we don't go on the path that you're speaking of, where it is like making sure that we have a strong, solid foundation? Because there's a lot of things outside of our community that looks to hurt us, looks to kill us, looks to end us. And it is one of those things where if we don't have our stuff together, will we survive if we don't unite and get our shit together?
We won't.
And that's what the fear is.
Black people will be extinct in less than 500 years if we don't turn around. And just the Bible shows that in another metaphorical way as we see it with Noah's Ark, with Sodom and Gomorrah, with things like that. But Black people will be extinct because Black women will be going outside of their race
Yep.
out of pain and trauma,
Yep.
and black men will be going outside of their race out of pain and trauma. And that's why we see the pictures of what a person will look like 50 years from now.
Yep.
And it's the racially ambiguous person with green eyes and curly hair, because the system already knows that's what's going to happen. But also that's what the system wants to happen. It doesn't want a race to have unity, like the Tower of Babel. If everybody is together, you could build anything you want to, and even God knows that. And that's why he mixed the languages. So if you can divide, then you can control, because you can divide, conquer, and control. But if you have a race that is strong, that is unified, that race can do anything they want to do. The economic position of that race is going to elevate, and that race will no longer be able to be controlled because they know who they are. And so that's why I do the work that I do, because if you look at it right now, millions of black women have given up on black men, and millions of black men have given up on black women. And what we don't realize is that we are our slave master's dream. This was the goal, and we playing right into it. And we starting podcasts to do the work of our slave masters, to destroy each other, to combat each other. And if you look at any other race, there is no other race that is so divided in the media and just bashing each other every single day but us. And we also are the only race that were slaves in America at large. Probably those few other little sprinkles. So that's what we got to understand. And that's the message that's uncomfortable for every outlet to share. So I commend you for...
No, that's real. That's how I can kind of see what the work that you're doing. Because if we continue to be divided, I actually had a thought of like, if we don't unite, then look at what's happening. They're killing us off in different ways. We're not joining. We're not producing more of us. So what happens, strategically? And it made me think about, and I know I was going to give you that last question, but it made me think about Dion. He ended up building in Jackson State, which seemed like it was about the black community, which is what I thought we were after. I thought we want to keep it in the family, want to unite and build, and then he ends up going to Colorado State. What was your immediate thoughts just from that dynamic?
My immediate thoughts is, I thought about the young black men who have abandonment issues and how they would relate Dion leaving to their father leaving. And Colorado representing the other woman who has a bigger butt and may be prettier. And she seems she can offer more in that area. So dad leaves for this other woman when he promised he would be here and be there for us. And so that's what my initial thought was. And at the end of the day, I just try not to judge, because I understand people say he don't need money, but none of us can see his bank account.
Yeah.
And none of us understand how many bills he has and how many people he has to take care of. And he said that. He said, what about me and my life? He said, I take care of everybody. So I feel like for him, it was a generational wealth move, because largely athletes are known to spend everything they earn playing. So I know the money he earned way back in the day, completely gone. He got to earn new money today. And you're not going to be able to take care of your grandkids and your great grands off of Jackson State's $300K a year. And there's no promise that you'll get the $3 million a year if they allegedly are stealing the money. So although it hurt me to see, and although I wouldn't have left from this seat, I can't say what I would actually do if I was in his actual shoes. But I understand the pain that people are expressing, because it sounds like a broken promise.
And that's all it is. Because I think anyone in their right mind understands about, you get a bigger opportunity, not necessarily putting color in it, but like position, resources, makes sense. But yes, my thing was to hold Dion accountable, because even the work that we do here, we're committed to this audience. And we were doing this before this audience existed on the mass scale that it was. Like, you were already committed. And this is before we were making money. And so it was just a salute to Dion, where he was looking, or how he started, which is, that's dope. You being about the people, you want to see us come up, because again, man, me and you even doing this interview is us building. It's us taking our influence, our resources coming together and build a great moment. And that's what we should be doing. But oftentimes I hold us accountable because we give our shit away to people that don't look like us, which in terms ties into what we just discussed about our existence. If we don't move a certain way or on a code, which I'm calling the black code, we will ultimately see slowly fade away.
Hmm.
And I don't think we think about that.
We don't.
It's because it's long term, right? It's like, oh, we're gonna always be here. But systematically, you keep seeing these things looking to end, you know, our existence in terms of this particular country.
I think that's what it is. We got to hold ourselves accountable, and we got to understand where much is given, much is required. So as painful as it is to have to ride for a whole culture, if you given a voice and you given a platform, you
I
got to
just
be
feel like it's
willing to do it.
priceless. I mean, like, I'm inspired by men like Malcolm X. Wasn't like no billionaire, but these are people that impact our lives. So I'm just trying to figure out what the hell are we in this for? If it's just to kind of like serve a few and not the whole tribe. So I'm just trying to figure that out. I'm just like, you want to save 10 people or you want to save thousands?
Right, right.
So, but yeah, Mr. Tony Gaskins, this has been an awesome, 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 awesome interview. We look forward to possibly even having you back. Thank you for your first one-on-one with Hype Plus.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.